What is going on, y'all? It's your boy RickyMoto. Welcome back to yet another video. So I'm actually recording this video for the second time because I was just recording this video on the way here, and then I noticed my GoPro wasn't even recording, so that's freaking great. Hopefully I can remember everything that I said because I said a lot of important things. But anyways, we are here by the pier side. Looks freaking amazing. Today I'm going to be talking about the Yamaha R3 and everything that you should know about it, because I know this is a pretty hot bike and a lot of people want to get the R3 and they're, you know, wondering a lot of things about it and have a lot of questions about it. It's super nice out right now. It's like 70 degrees. It's nice and warm, but it's also sunset, so you know the skies are kind of orangey and beautiful. The Yamaha R3. This that I have over here is a 2021 model. I bought it brand new in January. I put the order in. I actually had to wait like 4 months just to get it because they didn't have them in stock. I don't think the situation has changed. I think they're still really hard to get. So if you are in the market for an R3, I suggest looking into the used market because there's a lot more options there, and you can probably save some money as well, honestly. But yeah, this thing is like fully decked out, carbon fiber panels, everything, exhaust, tune, all that. So I want to talk about why there's so much demand for the R3 and why it's so popular. But there's a couple of beginner bikes out there like the Ninja 400, but the R3 from Yamaha specifically has gotten so much traction and they did really well, and it was a really successful bike. And I think in 2019 or so, that's when they, you know, did the new redesign with the front fascia. And that's one of the biggest things about this bike. People love it for the way it looks. The R3 doesn't look like a 300, which is why people love it. The other beginner bikes out there, they kind of have that, you know, beginner bike look where it's very skinny. It doesn't look wide enough, and it's definitely, and also just like the design, like the curvatures and like the angles just don't look that aesthetically pleasing. If you look at an R6 or even an R1 and compare it with the R3, they look very, very, very similar. And if you don't look carefully, you might even think they're the same thing. A lot of people have come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, is that an R6 or is that a 600? I'm like, nah dude, it's a 300. So it definitely gives off that bigger bike look, and if that's what you're going for, then, you know, get an R3. Even though this bike has a very sporty design, it actually doesn't handle all too much like a sports bike, I gotta say. Seating position on here is very upright, it's very comfortable, and I like that, you know, because I typically like to just cruise around town. My first bike before this was actually a Kawasaki Z125 Pro, and that also had a really upright seating position. So transitioning over to the R3 didn't feel all that much different. The only other bike that I've ridden was the Yamaha R7, and that thing was super aggressive in terms of seating position. My back was so bent forward, and even after like 30 minutes of riding, my back started hurting. And also your legs are like way pushed back and bent up, so definitely not as comfortable as an R3. The bike is also super light and nimble. You know, it takes little to no effort to turn this thing or lean it over, so it makes it really easy to navigate around traffic. If you're lane splitting, you know, it's easy to kind of swerve in and out. I live in New York, so lane splitting isn't legal, but you know, I do it anyway like everyone else. I feel like this bike feels a lot like a bicycle in terms of handling, if that makes any sense. You know, you're very upright, your hands are like in the right position where it's not super bent up. See this bike kind of like a hybrid. You know, it has like that design language of a sports bike, but it doesn't really handle like a sports bike, if that makes sense, which is what I like, because I'm not doing super spirited riding all the time. You know, I just like to cruise. I know some people turn the R3 into like a track bike because it's so light and you can, you know, get around corners a lot quicker. But, you know, I don't really carve corners all that much, so I don't really care about turning this thing into a track bike. I don't go to the track. Now, let's talk about the power band. That's probably the biggest thing that people, you know, are kind of on the fence about. You know, people say 300cc bikes are very slow and not, you know, powerful enough to keep up with traffic. From someone who has ridden a 125, a 300, as well as like a 700, well, technically 600cc bike, I can attest that the R3 is not underpowered depending on the situation. So if you've never ridden before, or you don't really understand what a 300 is like, a 600 is like, the best way to compare it is like a 300 feels a lot like your luxury sedan in terms of the power band. You know, this thing is faster than a Honda Civic, but it's not as fast as like a BMW M4. You know what I'm saying? This thing is kind of like the middle ground, so like a base model luxury car, kind of like my BMW right now. I have a 428i. Is very equivalent to the power of that. You know, 0 to 60 times on this, I average around 5 seconds flat. I'm 120 pounds, I'm 5'7". Now, if you weigh a little heavier, then, you know, the acceleration might not be as quick. And the power is also very linear. You know, it's not like if you pull the throttle, it's going to jump at you. It's very beginner friendly. You know, it's not going to scare you. You're not going to feel intimidated. And, you know, the power is definitely more than enough. You know, I can accelerate and keep up with traffic or even pass them. But I think where the power is a little bit questionable is on the highway. You know, right now I'm cruising, you know, going 33 miles an hour, 4th gear. My RPMs are around the 4,500 mark. That's a very comfortable RPM to be at while cruising. I think if you're below that, it tends to be a little jerky and like choppy because it's about to stall. See, this thing can pull, man. People say the R3 is slow? Come on now. So I think the reason why people are like the R3 is slow is mainly because they're talking about highway riding, or they're comparing it to a bigger bike. Obviously, this thing is not going to keep up with like a 600 because, you know, they're a different class motorcycle. You know, when I'm on the highway cruising 60, 70 miles an hour, I'm in 6th gear and the RPMs are like at the 8,000 mark while cruising. So that is a little bit high of an RPM to be cruising at. It doesn't mean that the bike can't handle going faster or handle that speed. It just takes a little bit of effort, you know. You gotta like pull the throttle pretty hard. I never really had issues with keeping up with traffic. I can overtake people on the highway pretty easily and get ahead of them, so it's not like it can't keep up, but it just takes some effort, which is why I think the bike is like borderline not powerful enough for the highway. I don't think it's too big of a deal for me though, because I live in New York and the highway speed limit is like 55, and me going 60, 70 is already considered speeding. If you live in a different state where the speed limit's a little bit faster, like Texas or something, you know, I think their speed limit's like 80 miles an hour. I think at that point, that's where the R3 might suffer a little bit. When I'm hitting 80 miles an hour, I'm basically near red line. So it's definitely pushing the limit of the bike. But if you're doing a lot of highway riding, then maybe going with the 400 and up will be a little bit more ideal. So I really think it's the situation that you're in, what your intent is with the bike, that will determine if the R3 is underpowered or not. I think the R3 is the perfect get-around bike, you know, just getting around town, running errands, has that acceleration, has that comfort, you know, it's everything in one. So hopefully everything that I said in this video is helpful for you guys if you're in the market for an R3. I know I get a lot of DMs from people, you know, asking about the R3 because they want to get one, and a couple of my subscribers actually purchased an R3 because of my videos, which is pretty cool. Hopefully I can, you know, bring all you guys into the R3 gang because this thing is really underrated, I gotta say. There's a lot of good things that people say about the R3, and there's also a lot of bad things, but a lot of the bad things have to be with the power. But like, you're complaining about a 300 being not fast enough, but like, it's a 300. Like, that was what it was designed for. It wasn't meant to be a rocket ship. If you are a beginner rider and you want to get your first bike and you're looking at the R3, I think it's a great option. I think the most comparable bike to the R3 is probably the Ninja 400. It's a great alternative, but you know, I just feel like the 400 kind of lacks some things that the R3 has, that being, you know, design language. But you know, design is also subjective. You know, some people like the way the Ninja looks. Yamaha, I'm not going to say that they're like a luxury brand, but I noticed with Yamaha bikes, they tend to sell a little easier, and they also tend to hold their value a lot better. I can basically sell my bike for exactly what I got it for right now if I really wanted to. That just shows that, you know, the R3 can really hold its value, and that applies for the rest of the Yamaha lineup, but especially the R3 because of the amount of hype that's around it. And I'm kind of lucky to even have one right now because, you know, when I went to the dealership to get one, they didn't have any, and they told me that they're not going to get any stock for a while. But I put the order in anyway, and within a few months I was able to finally get it. I wanted this bike since I was in high school, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago. I think that was before the new 2019 design came out. But yeah, I'm really happy with this bike. But the thing is, I am going to be selling it in a month. So I'm saying all these good things about it now, and then I'm like, oh, I'm getting rid of it. Hope you guys are safe out there, taking care of yourself. And if you ride and you're watching this video, ride safely, don't get hurt. I appreciate all the love and support that you guys have been giving me recently. I get a lot of DMs on Instagram from people saying how I inspired them to start riding or even starting a YouTube channel. So yeah, guys, I appreciate all the love and support. If you guys want to give a little bit of extra support, I do have a candle brand called The Salted Candle. I make and sell candles in my basement. So if you guys want to support and get yourself a candle or get it for a gift, All the information will be in the description below. You can use the code THANKYOU for 10% off your purchase. But yeah, with that being said, hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's been your boy RickyMoto, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.